They say love is supposed to feel safe, warm, like a home you can rest in after a long day. But if you've ever loved someone with a fearful, avoidant attachment style, you know it doesn't always feel that way. At first, it feels electric. They let you in quickly. They share stories that feel raw and vulnerable. And you think, this is different. This is real. But just when you start to relax into the closeness, they pull away. Their messages slow down. Their affection fades, and suddenly, you feel like you're chasing a shadow. It's not that they don't care. In fact, they often care more deeply than they can admit. The truth is, they're caught in a silent battle you can't see. A battle between craving connection and fearing it at the same time. That's why fearful avoidants are sometimes called the push-pull lovers. They pull you close, then push you away, often in the same breath. So the question that haunts so many people is this: if a fearful avoidant leaves, do they ever come back? To answer that, we have to step into their world. We have to look past the surface behavior, ghosting, silence, mixed signals, and dive into the emotional logic behind it. Only then can we understand why they leave, and more importantly, why sometimes they return. The double bind of fearful avoidance. Fearful avoidants grow up in environments where love felt unsafe. Maybe their caregivers were unpredictable, warm one moment, cold the next. Maybe there was affection mixed with criticism or comfort mixed with chaos. Over time, this wires the brain to believe, love is what I need most, but it's also what will hurt me. This creates a double bind. On one hand, they long for closeness. They want to be seen, to be held, to feel secure. On the other hand, the moment someone gets too close, alarms go off inside their nervous system. Intimacy feels dangerous. Vulnerability feels like a trap. So they live in this constant push-pull. When they get close, they panic. When they get distance, they feel lonely. This is why relationships with them can feel like whiplash. One day they're pouring their heart out, and the next, they've gone silent. Why they leave. When a fearful avoidant ends a relationship, it's usually not because they've stopped caring. More often, it's because caring has become overwhelming. The closer they felt to you, the more exposed their vulnerabilities became. And instead of leaning in, their instinct is to retreat. It can look cold and cruel from the outside. They might ghost. They might suddenly criticize you or pick fights. They might even say, "I need space," without explaining why. But beneath that behavior is often fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of being controlled. Fear of being hurt like they were in the past. Do they regret it? Now here's where it gets interesting. Fearful avoidants often do regret leaving, but not always in the straightforward way you might think. At first, leaving gives them relief. No more pressure, no more intimacy to navigate, no more risk of being hurt. But then the silence sets in, and that silence starts echoing. See, fearful avoidants aren't actually comfortable with being alone for too long. They may crave independence, but deep down, they long for connection just as much. And when the dust settles, many of them realize they miss the very closeness they ran from. This is the paradox. They leave to protect themselves from intimacy, but in doing so, they create the very loneliness they're terrified of. The cycle of return. This is why fearful avoidants often come back. Not because they've suddenly fixed their attachment style overnight, but because the pull of connection is too strong to ignore. They may start by watching your stories online, just to feel close without risking vulnerability. Then they might send a casual text, something light like, "Hey, how have you been?" Eventually, they may even confess, "I've been thinking about you." It's rarely dramatic. It's usually subtle, hesitant, like dipping a toe back into the water. But here's the thing. When they return, it's often with the same fears they left with. Unless they've done inner work, therapy, self-reflection, or conscious growth, the cycle can repeat. A story to illustrate. Let me give you an example. I once spoke with a woman who had dated a fearful, avoidant man. In the beginning, he was all in. Late night talks, weekend trips, constant affection. She felt like she had finally found someone who saw her. But 3 months in, things shifted. He started pulling back. Texts went unanswered. Plans were canceled. When she finally confronted him, he admitted, "I don't know if I can do this. I'm scared of being tied down." And just like that, he ended it. She was devastated. For weeks she cried, wondering if she had done something wrong. But then, 6 weeks later, her phone buzzed. It was him. "I miss you. Can we talk?" This is classic fearful avoidant behavior. Leaving not because the love wasn't real, but because the love was too real. Returning not because the fear is gone, but because the loneliness is louder. The key question. So, do fearful avoidants come back? Yes, many do. But the deeper question is, when they come back, is it truly different? Because here's the truth. A return is not the same as a reconciliation. And reconciliation is not the same as healing. Number 2, why they come back and what it really means. When a fearful avoidant circles back into your life, it can feel like hope. That text message, that sudden, "I've been thinking about you," that unexpected call, it stirs something inside you. Part of you lights up, remembering the good moments. Part of you tenses, remembering the pain. So why do they come back? Let's break it down. 1. The echo of loneliness. Fearful avoidants may crave independence, but deep down, they're not built to live in emotional isolation. When they leave, they often tell themselves it's for the best. "I need space. I'll feel freer. I'll be okay on my own," and for a while, they believe it. But human beings are wired for connection. Neuroscience shows that our brains release oxytocin, the bonding hormone, not just during intimacy, but even through small gestures of closeness. When that chemical is suddenly cut off, the brain feels withdrawal. For the fearful avoidant, the silence that once felt safe begins to sting. That sting of loneliness is often the first reason they return, not because they've solved their fears, but because they miss the comfort they once had with you. 2. The pull of unfinished business. Fearful avoidants struggle with closure. Cutting ties completely means confronting guilt, regret, and shame, feelings they work hard to avoid. Instead, many keep a door cracked open, emotionally if not physically. Coming back can be their way of testing. Is the door still open for me? Can I come close without being consumed? It's not always about love alone. Sometimes it's about reassurance, that they didn't ruin everything, that they're not unlovable, that you'll still respond even after the distance. 3. The trigger of growth, or fear of loss. Every now and then, something shifts. Maybe they've started therapy. Maybe they've read something that resonates. Maybe they've simply matured through life experience. And in that growth, they realize they pushed away someone they didn't want to lose. Other times, it's not growth, but fear that brings them back. Fear that you're moving on. Fear that they've lost something irreplaceable. Fear that the silence isn't temporary after all. The hidden meaning of their return. Now, here's the part most people miss. A fearful avoidance return doesn't always mean they're ready for love in the way you need it. Their coming back often says more about where they are in their internal cycle than about the stability of the relationship. If they're returning because they're lonely, the connection may be shallow. If they're returning because they feel guilt, it may be more about easing their conscience than building a future. If they're returning because of growth, that's when you may see real change. The challenge is, from the outside, all three look the same. A text is a text. A call is a call. But the intention behind it makes all the difference. A story of return. Let me share an example. There was a man named Alex who ended his relationship abruptly. His partner, Maya, was left heartbroken and confused. 2 months later, Alex reached out, saying he missed her. Maya felt torn. Part of her wanted to run back. Part of her wanted to protect herself. When they met, Alex admitted, "I thought I wanted space." But the more time passed, the emptier it felt. I realized I was running from my own fear, not from you. This was different. It wasn't a breadcrumb. It was a moment of self-awareness. Did that mean everything was instantly fixed? No. But it showed a crack in the avoidant armor, a willingness to face what had once been avoided. Maya chose to move slowly, to see if his actions matched his words. And over time, she saw consistent effort, therapy sessions, open communication, and patience. Their reconciliation wasn't perfect, but it was real. Not every story ends like this. Some avoidants return with promises that fade just as quickly as they came. Others hover at the edges of your life without ever fully stepping in. The key is learning to tell the difference. How to respond when they return. This is where your power lies, because while you can't control whether they come back, you can control what happens next. Here are 3 guiding principles. Stay grounded in your worth. Don't let the thrill of their return make you forget the pain of their leaving. Hold on to your sense of value. Ask yourself, am I letting them back in because they've changed, or because I'm afraid of being alone? Look for consistency, not promises. Anyone can say, "I miss you." What matters is whether their actions line up with their words. Are they showing up differently, or are they replaying the same pattern? Move slowly. You don't have to decide everything at once. Let them prove through time and presence that their return is about genuine growth, not just temporary relief. The emotional trap. One of the biggest dangers when a fearful avoidant returns is falling into the trap of believing, "This time will be different without evidence." Your heart wants to believe, but your healing depends on discernment. If their return is real, it will show in how they respect your boundaries, communicate openly, and take responsibility for past hurt. If it's not, you'll see the cycle repeat. And then you have a choice: to break free or to re-enter the loop. Reflection. So, do fearful avoidants come back? Yes, they do. But what really matters isn't just that they return, it's how they return and whether you meet them with clarity instead of desperation. Because here's the truth. Their return is not your validation. Your worth isn't proven by whether or not they miss you. Your worth has always been intact, even when they couldn't see it. Number 3, healing and moving forward, even if they come back. When we talk about fearful avoidance, it's easy to get lost in their patterns, their fear of closeness, their push and pull, their return after distance. But the heart of your healing isn't about predicting their behavior. It's about reclaiming your own sense of safety, worth, and peace. Because here's the truth. Whether they come back or not, your life, your healing, your growth cannot wait. 1. Rebuilding trust in yourself. When you've been in a relationship with a fearful avoidant, you may start doubting your own instincts. You wonder, did I push too hard? Did I not do enough? Was it my fault they pulled away? This self-questioning is natural, but it can become corrosive. Because healing begins when you shift the focus away from what they did to how you can respond now. Ask yourself, what boundaries do I need to feel safe again? What do I want in a relationship beyond this push-pull dynamic? How can I trust myself to walk away if this cycle repeats? Each answer strengthens your inner compass, so you no longer depend on someone else's return to feel steady. 2. Redefining love. One of the hidden costs of loving an avoidant is that your definition of love often narrows. You start equating love with longing, love with waiting, love with crumbs of affection after long silences. But love isn't supposed to feel like chasing a shadow. Love in its healthiest form feels steady. It feels safe. It doesn't demand that you shrink your needs just to keep the peace. It doesn't punish you for being vulnerable. It doesn't vanish when things get close. Redefining love means remembering that you deserve more than temporary connection. You deserve a love that stays. 3. The choice when they come back. So, let's imagine they do return. They text you. They call you. They say, I miss you. I want to try again. Here's the fork in the road. You can let hope lead, or you can let clarity lead. If hope leads, you may ignore red flags, excuse inconsistencies, and repeat old cycles. If clarity leads, you listen with your whole heart, but you also measure with your whole mind. You don't rush. You don't cling. You observe. Are they showing growth, or just easing their loneliness? Your choice isn't simply whether to take them back. It's whether you're willing to enter the cycle again. And choice is your power. 4. The gift of letting go. Not every fearful avoidant who returns is meant to stay. And sometimes the greatest act of healing is realizing you don't need them to. Letting go doesn't mean you didn't love them. It doesn't mean the memories weren't real. It simply means you're choosing peace over uncertainty, self-worth over fear, clarity over chaos. There's a freedom in closing a door that never truly opened. It allows you to redirect your love inward, and eventually, outward again, to someone capable of meeting you fully. 5. A story of healing. Let me share a story. Sophia had been with a fearful avoidant for 2 years. The cycle was always the same: closeness, withdrawal, return. Each time he came back, she felt hopeful. Each time he left, she felt broken. One day, after another round of silence, he returned again. But this time Sophia paused. She didn't rush to answer his call. She didn't open her heart immediately. Instead, she asked herself, what do I actually want? And does this pattern give it to me? For the first time, she realized the answer was no. And with gentleness, she told him, I care about you, but I can't keep doing this cycle. I need stability. I need love that doesn't disappear when it gets close. That moment was her breakthrough, not because he suddenly changed, but because she did. She stopped waiting for someone else's healing to determine her own. 6. Lessons to carry forward. From everything we've explored, here are the truths worth carrying. Fearful avoidants do come back, but their return is not proof of love, only proof of their own cycle. Your worth isn't defined by whether they regret leaving or choose to return. Healing means building trust in yourself again, so you can discern if their return is healthy or just another loop. Sometimes the bravest choice is to say no to the cycle, even when your heart still aches. Closing reflection. So, if you're listening right now and wondering if your avoidant will come back, remember this. The more important question is, will you come back to yourself? Because at the end of the day, your healing, your worth, and your future are too precious to hinge on someone else's fear. If they return with growth, with consistency, with humility, you can choose to explore that. If they return with the same cycle, you can choose to walk away. Either way, you hold the power, not them. And perhaps the greatest healing of all is realizing you don't need them to regret losing you for you to rise. You can rise anyway.